Hello everyone, I hope you're ready for another Solve With Me episode. This one was fun to solve. It has a 2-string kite, 2 turbot fish, an XY wing, a W wing, an X wing, and another XY wing. So 2 turbot fish and 2 XY wings. A great review of those techniques and a great puzzle. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so here we have the puzzle. And let's start with the ones. We have a 1 here and a 1 here. So this has to be a 1. And I can pencil in 1s in block 6, here and here. I'm going to stick with Snyder notation to start, and that means that I'm only going to pencil in candidates if they are restricted to 2 and only 2 cells in a block. That strategy works nicely in the beginning stages of solving a puzzle, so let's stick to that, meaning Snyder notation for now. Okay, I don't see anything else I can do with the number 1 for now, so let's move on to the number 2. There's a 2 here, and a 2 here. Oh, and a 2 here, so I can place a 2 here. Nice. And now that I placed that 2, and because of this 2, I can place a 2 here. And I can pencil in 2s here and here. Remember, I'm sticking with Snyder notation for now. And in block 9, I can pencil in 2s here and here. And now those 2s are locked into column 8, so there can't be any other 2s in column 8. And there's already a 2 in column 9, so I can pencil in 2s in block 3, here and here. Okay, let's move on to the number 3. There's a 3 here and here, so I can pencil in 3s in block 8, here and here. And here in block 4, I can pencil in 3s here and here. Okay, let's move on to the number 4. And we have 2 4s that are given. So that means I can pencil in 4s here and here. And I think that's it for 4. Okay, let's look at number 5. And I can pencil in 5s here and here. And, okay, what about 6? Looks like there are 2 6s and they intersect into block 9. So I can pencil in 6s here and here. And so that's locked into this row. And there's a 6 in this row. So in block 7, one of these 3 cells has to be a 6. And I'm leaving that for now since I'm only penciling in candidates if they are restricted to 2 cells in a block. Remember, I'm using Snyder notation for now. And the 6 can go into 3 cells, so let's leave that alone for now. Okay, what about the number 7? I don't see anything. All right, what about 8? Lots of 8s. I can pencil in 8s down here. And it looks like a lot of 8s are intersecting into block 3. So this has to be an 8. And before I place that, you can see that the Snyder notation is paying off. I have the 2s penciled into these 2 cells. Now, if one of these is an 8, then I know the other cell is a 2. So that's a nice payoff. Okay, so this is an 8. And now this is a 2. And look, again, the Snyder notation is paying off in block 1. This can't be a 2, so this has to be a 2. And let's see, I can pencil in 8s in block 5 here and here. Okay, what about the number 9? It looks like there are 2 9s given, and that's not very helpful. Okay, once I've run through the numbers 1 to 9, then I look for units with just 2 cells missing. And here in column 5, there are just 2 cells missing numbers. And what's missing? The 8 and the 9. But this can't be the 9 because of this 9. So this is the 9, and then this is the 8. And then that resolves this pair of 8s. This can't be an 8 anymore, so this is the 8 in block 7. And over here, the 9 replaced the pair of 8s I had penciled in block 5. So this is now an 8. So you can see how the Snyder notation is paying off here. It doesn't always, but so far, so good. Okay, now what else can I do? Let's see. There's a 5 here. And in this column, column 7, we need a 5. But because of this 5 in the block, it can't go in either of these two cells. So where in column 7 can a 5 go? And it can't go down here because there's already a 5 in the bottom row. So the only place a 5 can go in column 7 is here. Nice. And so now once we've placed that 5, I can place a 5 in block 1 here. And now because of this 5 I just placed and this 5, I can place a 5 in block 4. And now in block 5, this can no longer be a 5, so this has to be the 5. Another win for Snyder notation. We have 5, 5, 5, so this has to be a 5. And 5, 5, 5, so this has to be a 5. And because of Snyder notation, this has to be a 6, and that makes this a 2. Wow, I think that takes care of all the 5s in the puzzle. And now there are just 2 cells left in block 9, and what's missing? A 3 and a 4. So this can be a 3 or a 4, and this can be a 3 or a 4. Okay, now let's run through the numbers again just to make sure we didn't miss anything. 1, no. 2. Oh, this is a 2. Great. Any place else? I think that's all the 2s. Okay. Let me go back to the 1. Did I miss anything? I can pencil in 1s here and here. And I think that's it for the 1s. 2s. I have all the 2s. 3. Let's see. I can pencil in 3s here in block 3, and I think that's it for 3. What about the number 4? That's it. That's all I can do with the number 4. 5. We have all the 5s. 6. I can pencil in 6 here and a 6 here. And now those 6s are locked into column 4, so I can pencil in 6s here and here. Okay, I think that's it for the number 6. So what about the number 7? There are 2 7s intersecting into block 3. So I can pencil in 7s here and here. And now those 7s are locked into column 8, and there's already a 7 in column 9. So I can pencil in 7s here and here. What about 8? I have all the 8s. 9. I can pencil in a 9 here and here. And now those are locked into column 2, and there's already a 9 in column 1. So I can pencil in 9s here and here. And 1 second, if this is a 9, and this can't be a 9, and this can't be a 9 because of the locked candidates, and the bottom row needs a 9, so where can it go? So the only place a 9 can go in the bottom row is here. So this has to be a 9. And here, I can pencil in 9s here and here. And now these can't be 9s, so I can pencil in 9s here and here. And now I don't see anything else we can do by just looking around. So at this point, I'm going to switch to cell notation and then look for some patterns that we can use. So I'm going to pause the record here and fill in all the cells with all the possible candidates, and we'll go from there. Okay, I'm back and I filled in all the cells with all the possible candidates, and I do this manually so that I can see the patterns. I know that there are apps that do this for you, but you can use one of those. But I think doing it manually helps you to get familiar with the puzzle that you're working on, and then you just see things. So one of the things I noticed is that in block 9, these two cells cannot be 4s. They are either 3, 9 or 1, 9. But column 8 needs a 4. And it's already filled up in block 9. So the only place a 4 can go in column 8 is in block 3. So here in block 3, the 4 has to be in this column, column 8. One of these 3 cells has to be a 4. So that means none of these cells in column 9 can be a 4. So I can eliminate all the 4s in these cells. And that leaves us with a naked single, the 6. Okay, let me go ahead and clean up the grid. And there's no 6 in this row except for here. So this cell has to be a 6. And let's get rid of this 6. So there's only one possible 6 here in column 3. So this cell has to be a 6. Okay, cleaning up the grid. Now let's see, we have a 6 here and here. So this has to be a 6. Okay, now let's see, we have a 1 here and a 1 here. So these are the only 2 1s in this row. Let's color that yellow. And in the same block, there's a 1 here and a 1 here in the column. And those are the only 1s in column 6. So let's make those yellow as well. So we have a classic 2-string kite pattern here. So that means any cell that sees both ends of the string, that's these 2 cells, cannot be a 1. Why? Well, let's go back to the block. We have 2 1s in this block, and one of them has to be a 1. If this is a 1, then this can't be a 1 since it's in the same block. And then this cell is in the same column, and it would have to be a 1. But if this is the 1, then this cell in the same block can't be a 1, and then this cell in the same row has to be a 1 since there are only 2 1s in the row. So either way, in block 5, if either of these is the 1 and the other is not, and it doesn't matter which one, either one, then one of these 2 cells, either in the same column or in the same row, either of these 2 cells has to be a 1. And again, we don't know which one, but it doesn't matter since any cell that sees both those cells can't be a 1. So we can eliminate the 1 from this cell. And that is a 2-string kite. Nice. All right, let's see what other patterns we can find. Okay, so here in column 1, we have just 2 3s and also just 2 7s. But let's look at the 3s for now. So here there are 2 3s in column 1, and one of them is in the bottom row. And in block 9, there are also just 2 3s, and one of the 3s is also in the bottom row. So we have 4 cells that form some sort of a chain. So now look at column 1. One of these yellow cells has to be a 3. And in block 9, one of these yellow cells also has to be a 3. So let's go back to column 1. If this cell in the bottom row is the 3, then this cell in block 9 can't be a 3. And since there's only one other cell in the block that could be a 3, this would have to be the 3. So if this first cell is a 3, then this cell is a 3. Okay, but what if this cell in the bottom row is not a 3? Then this cell has to be a 3 since there are only 2 3s in column 1. So either way, one of these cells has to be a 3. So just like with the 2-string kite, any cell that sees both of these cells cannot be a 3. And this cell sees both, and so this cell cannot be a 3. This pattern is called a turbot fish because sometimes it forms a fish-looking pattern if you connect the cells, but it is really a type of chain. And this one lets us eliminate the 3 from this cell. That may be helpful. And I think, yes, this is another pattern on the 7s. Here in this row, there are just 2 7s. Let me highlight those in yellow. And in this block, there are just 2 possible 7s. Let me highlight those. So now we have another turbot fish. Again, it's actually just a fancy name for a chain. In this case, let's take a look at this 4-7 cell. Since there are just 2 7s in the block, this cell is either true, meaning a 7, or this cell is a 7. If this is the 7, then this 7-9 cell cannot be a 7. And since there are only 2 7s in the row, that would make this 1-7 cell a 7. So either this cell with the 4-7 is a 7, or this cell with the 1-7 is a 7. Either which way, any cell that sees both these cells cannot be a 7. And so it can be eliminated. So this cell with a 4-7-9 sees the 4-7 cell, and it also sees the 1-7 cell. And since one of those has to be a 7, we can eliminate the 7 from this cell. Great! So that leaves us with a bi-value cell, the 4-7. And let's see. There's a 3-4 bi-value cell here and a 3-9 bi-value cell up here. And these 3 cells share the same 3 candidates, the 3, 4, and 9. Okay, I think we have another chain here. There are a few ways you can look at this to follow the logic. So let's take a look at this 3-4 cell in block 9. It's either a 3 or a 4. If it's a 3, then this cell up here has to be a 9, right? But if this 3-4 cell is a 4, then this cell has to be a 9. So either this 3-9 cell is a 9, but if not, then this 4-9 cell is a 9. So either way, one of these 2 cells has to be a 9, which means this cell that sees both of those cells cannot be a 9. So we can eliminate the 9 from this cell. Beautiful. All right, once we eliminate that 9, now there's only one place in column 6 that can be a 9, and that's here. So this is a 9. Nice. Okay, let me go ahead and clean up the grid. And let's see if we can find any more chains or wings or whatever. So here we go. Okay, in this row there are 2 1s in bi-value cells, this 1-7 and this 1-9. So there's a link between them. One of these cells has to be a 1. And here in the same column there's a 1-4 in the same column as the 1-7, and another 1-4 in the same column as the 1-9. Here, let me highlight those 4 cells. Okay, so one of these cells in this row has to be a 1, right? So if this cell is the 1, then this bi-value cell has to be a 4. But if this cell is the 1, then this bi-value cell has to be a 4. So either way, in this row, one of these cells is a 1. Whichever cell is a 1, then the other cell has to be a 4, either this cell or this cell. But one of these cells has to be a 4. So now you know the drill. Any cell that sees both of these 1, 4 cells can't be a 4, and it can be eliminated. Well, this sees both 1, 4 cells. So let me make that green. And this cell sees both. Let me make that one green as well. So now we have these 2 green cells, and they see the 1, 4 by value cells. And since one of those cells has to be a 4, we can eliminate the 4 from the green cells. And now there's only one possible 4 in this row, so this cell has to be a 4. And that makes this cell a 7, and this can't be a 7 anymore, and this can't be a 7 either, so it's a 4. Let me get rid of this 4 and this 4. So now this is a 7. Let's go ahead and clean up the grid. And so we have an X-wing pattern here on the 1s. There's a 1 here, and a 1 here, and a 1 here, and here. And did I make a mistake here? Is this a 1? What's missing from this block? A 1, 3, 9. This cell can't be a 9 because of these 9s locked into block 6, but it can be a 3, right? So I should have a 3 here. I don't know why this can't be a 3. Okay, so let me go ahead and pencil that in. I'm not sure what happened, but that is a possible candidate. Okay, let's get back to the X-wing. This row has 2 possible 1s, and this row has 2 possible 1s. And they line up in the same columns, columns 4 and 9. So we have a classic X-wing pattern here, which means that one of the diagonals is a 1. Either these 2 are the 1s or these 2 are the 1s. So either way, there can't be any more 1s in the columns. So we can eliminate this one here in column 4. So let's see, that leaves us with a 4, 9 here. And there's a 3, 9 here, and a 3, 4 here. So we have the numbers 3, 4, and 9 split between these 3 cells. So we have an XY wing pattern here, right? This 4, 9 cell is the pivot cell, and the 4, 9 shares a 4 with this cell and a 9 with this cell. And the extra candidate, we can call that the Z candidate in both cells, is the 3, which means that one of those cells has to be a 3. Going back to the pivot cell, it's either a 4 or a 9. If it's a 4, then this cell is the 3. But if the pivot cell is a 9, then this cell is a 3. So you see, either way, one of these cells is a 3. And you know it, any cell that sees both these cells cannot be a 3. So this cell down here sees both those cells, so it can't be a 3, so it's a 4. Okay, let's go ahead and clean up the grid. And now I'm getting a bunch of naked singles, so I think the whole puzzle is going to unravel. So now this is a 3. Which means these can't be 3s. And so this is a 7, which makes this a 4. And this is a 6, right? Which makes this a 4. Then this is a 3. And this is a 3. So this can't be a 3 anymore. And this is a 1, which means this is a 9, which makes this a 7. And then this is a 1. So this is now a 4, and you see how this is unraveling. And this is 9, 1, 7, 4, 7, 3, 9, 6, 7, 3, 1, 9, and 1, and the puzzle is done. Yay, that was really a nice puzzle. Give it a try. I'll leave a link to the puzzle in the description box below this video so you can try it for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something.